Hi YouTubers, this is the Alric Show. Don't just watch, but subscribe and share for life-changing stories and stories to make you laugh. Like, subscribe, and share.
The Alric Show, inspiration, motivation, one vision, hope to one new generation. Together we can live and learn. Yes, we're one family on the Alric Show.
Welcome to the Alric Show. The truth is, classism is usually swept under the carpet in Jamaica. The reality is, a lot of persons don't get the same opportunities because of where you come from or how you might look. Today we have Rajay Danvers on set with us. Mr. Danvers, how are you doing?
Pleasure.
Welcome to the Alric Show, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so you're a young man, and you would have witnessed classism in Jamaica. I mean, there are so many other territories where the matter of racism is rife over classism. Sometimes they're intertwined somewhat, you know. Here in Jamaica, what's your perspective on it?
Well, I think we have done injustice as a country to the society. And it dates back from slavery, you know, the white and the blacks and so.
And if you're black, stay back. If you're white, you're right.
Yeah.
And if you're brown, stick around. Right. I remember something from history class. Right.
So we have learned that from our colonial masters that black no good.
Yeah.
And what we have done is that we have somewhat segment society. And we have said, well, those who live here, the majority of the blacks or whatever who live here, the poor people, them, we call that section or that place the ghetto, the inner city, or the garrison. And so we find that they are treated a particular, or I dare say we are treated in a particular way. And
throughout many systems in Jamaica, by the way.
And I would say consistently, because in the culture says if you don't have a connection or you don't have money, you don't get you're not afforded first class treatment. And so almost everyone who would have come out of the ghetto would have to work twice as hard to get half the things that other people easily get.
And another situation is that a lot of persons, they can't put their address on their resume to say I live here or there.
And sadly, I have seen people get rejected because of the resume, the address on their resume. Sad. And it boggles me because you are competent, you know. It's not a matter of incompetence.
Far more competent than the other people.
And you'd find that one call gives another one an advantage.
One phone call, my brother.
And so I think for us to advance as a country, we have to move away from that classism structure. And I likened it, and I likened classism because, as you know, recently we had the Black Lives Matter movement, and I saw everyone jumping up and coming out to talk about Black Lives Matter. But I want to say, well, in Jamaica, Ghetto Lives Matter.
Yeah. Because
if we are going to want to take a culture onto our own, of course, to lobby with the Americans, racism is a real thing, but the same treatment for a man, for a white man stepping in a black man's neck is where a rich man stepping in a poor man's neck in Jamaica. I recognized that even how the police address us, hey boy, huh? But the same boy go Redills and he's excuse me sir. And I say, wow. The same boy go Belvedere and he's excuse me, sir, I'm just doing that. And I'm saying, wow. And I was almost a victim until thank God I was able to speak the Queen's English. Or else I would have been jolted on a wall with my hands behind my head and, you know, and searched because of where I come from. And I think that has hurt us tremendously as a people. It has hurt, and because many persons have been left behind because of what people perceive those from the garrison are like. And Itana did it well in a song that she did. I don't remember it clearly, but she pointed out how where she was from affected her in getting a job.
Mercy.
And so here's the man who want to here from Maxwell Avenue want to climb the social ladder.
Yeah.
But there is a blockage that says, hey, no. If you're from there, you stay there. But it goes back to how we trained. I think there has been a deliberate attempt to train our society to accept that there is no crossover, that social mobility is perhaps a farce. And if it's not like a man like yourself who is determined and resolute to say, well, if Bush Stewart can own a big TV company, I can do it too. And so I'm going to start my show. I'm going to crawl until I get it. It takes being resolute, being steadfast to cross over, because I genuinely believe, Alric, that we were taught to be this way, and the system keeps us that way. And it comes back, as I said before, from colonialism.
Yeah.
The structure, the strata. And so we talk about giving the little man, not giving him a fish, but teaching him how to fish. But when he tries to fish, he's stopped. What sort of mobility can you give to such a person if we are only accommodating a certain set of person? So we have a thing in Jamaica, where bright is determined by whether they can pass the test in class. And I reject that idea.
I too.
Painters were robbed. Dancers were robbed. They were told that they were dunce. You're not going away. So many lives were lost within our school systems because that child refused.
He's not able to pass a math test.
And you say, so I'm saying even that, because what I remember too, even within our school systems, we have that classism thing,
Yeah.
because some parents are treated a particular way.
Yes. Talk about it.
And some students can get away with certain things, but
Another big story.
So I think we have to move away from that.
How do we get to that place, though? How do we begin? Because this, I don't see it happening in a day or two or a year. How do we get to that place where we have to begin to teach another way to accept everyone?
I think just as how we teach math and English, we need to teach values. So we have to move away from because I believe that true education is more than the pursuit of a certain course of study.
Of course.
It is the holistic development.
That's
and
from Ellen G. White, right?
Yes. Look at that. And so we have to reach a stage in life where we say, hey, English is good, math is good, but do you know how to say please, thank you? Or how do you treat someone who is less than you? Do you look down to them or do you lift them up?
Right.
Do you shun them or do you embrace them? Do you say that you can't or do you try to teach them? We have to come to that place, and it has to, and I think legislation will have to back such a thing. For example, politics. People are of the view that politics is a particular way. And people will say, well, I have no place in it. But you have to understand that politics affects governance.
Yes.
And governance affects everyone, every single person. And so to say that you don't want a part of it, say that you don't want governance, but it's not taught.
We take a break. When we come back, we continue to talk more with Rajay on classism in Jamaica.
Alric Show.
Welcome back to the Alric Show. Rajay Danvers is here with us, and we're talking about classism in Jamaica. And of course, Rajay would have had some personal experiences. You grew up in Maxfield Avenue, on Maxfield Avenue. What are some of the experiences that that gave you the shock?
When I was 12 years old, I remember, so I live on Wellington Road. I was turning the corner from Maxfield Avenue to go on the road. I saw a big gathering of people. I hear people, because in Garrison, when war going, or anything happen, they run towards it,
right.
And not from it. So,
interesting.
I saw my friend there, about 2-3 years older than me. The police using his stomach like a World Cup football goal, kicking him to a pulp, seeing the spit come from his mouth, and through the noise, the crowd, I heard his mother, whom I knew very well, crying out, saying, "Do not kill me one pitney. They continued. When the crowd seemed to get thick on them, pepper spray, they had to retreat. And I remember that afternoon, even as I started to cry, and I remember, you know, it was hot enough, but I started to cry, and my face started to get cold, because you know the tears and the wind. And I said, who is here? Who will speak for us?
Why were they doing that to the youngster?
I get to understand that I remember they saying he gave the police bad face.
Okay. All right. So the police are in the area, an operation, let's say, and he gave them a bad face.
A sour look.
A sour look.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, hey boy, how you screw your face, man? Eh? Nah answer. Hey boy, who may I talk to? Kiss him teeth and then I walked away. Grabbed him. And I said to myself from that day, I want to be the person to change this.
How did you go about that change?
Well, I was in primary school at the time. And so I learned that through leadership comes the power to change. And I said, well, I have to be a leader. And so, you know, we prefect and hit student and move on. I went to Calabar after that, you know, the same thing. And then university, leadership and things. So for me, it was positioning myself in a place that I could influence people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about, you know, getting a position for myself.
Right.
I am learning and have learned to invest my whole life into the service of others. And the more I invest in people is the more I see God's blessing in my life.
And the better you become.
And the better I become. And so that experience said to me, no, things have to change. And we see this happening so consistently. And we hear the pronouncements that things will change and nothing happens. Or, you know what we used to hear, but I stopped hearing it? With, they were taking off frontline duty. I don't even remember that. Yeah. So and so, the police officers were taking off frontline duty.
And that's it.
Taking off frontline duty to be rotated? What learning took place that will cause a change in behavior? But I must point out that there has to be some equity in the system and balance.
Yes.
We're not saying that some civilians aren't rude.
Of course, we're not saying that.
But in the event that you abuse the power that you have, and I don't see it happening in Beverly Hills, brother. It's the truth. It will never. I tell the truth. As I've never. I can't recall seeing a police doing a patrol. I see private security doing patrols up, yeah? But I've never seen police. Yeah? I've never seen a police walking in Beverly Hills before, never. You see, leadership in primary and high school is very powerful, you know?
Yeah.
You know.
And you did that.
Right. You learn some skills, because listen now, I would say, looking at the prefects who were then, most of them doing well now. Because you learn traits that you will need for life. And you become an investment, more of an investment when you're a student leader, because now you're you know, teachers and the principal, you know, expect more from your thoughts, some things, life values that you get to actually take into the community. So one of the things I did while I was at Calabar is that I invited the children over to my house to help them with their homework.
What?
That's my contribution, right? But my mother had a problem with the fact that I rather do other people's
homework over that yours.
Leave my homework, and then what we call a slam dash something, and but I guess it's just service, service, and I do hope to be a leader in our country one day, but I reject the term politician.
Yeah. What term would you prefer?
Public servant. I think if we change the word, people will say you are the supreme public servant. You don't. It's the other way around, you know. But I don't think many people understand that I put you there to represent me. So I matter. So you speak to me about. You don't make change from the top, and want it to, and we just follow. It's not any dictatorship. It's a democracy. I select you to serve me. and to serve me in a way that dignifies me because you're representing me. But we seem to be out of touch. We seem to be out of touch, and that's where the problem lies. When we get to Parliament, we forget the people.
It's now about which party
And it's more about which
is
one.
doing
If they
this
never vote for
or
me,
did
like, getting any
that.
help, you know. And I reject that too. I think we need to focus on Jamaica. As a matter of fact, I dare to say that most of the problems that we have in the country is as a result of tribal politics.
All right, we take a break. When we come back, we talk more with Rajay Danvers about changes that he would like to see in Jamaica.
Alex Show.
We now continue our conversation with Rajay Danvers. He'll now talk to us about good parenting and how this can help instill better attitudes in children and how he's helping to make a difference. For a lot of our young men, I do believe that a lot of work, more work needs to be done to help to save our young men from getting into, the wrong things. And we have to start that from early, right? How did you influence changes, or what do you think some of the changes can be?
Well, before we even look at the changes, we have to look at the reality that we face in Jamaica. Now, Dr. Herbert Gale, anthropologist, did an intrinsic study on crime, criminology in Jamaica. And he looked at the boys and some of the alarming facts that came out of the study, or the studies that he has done over the period, is that the men who become notorious killers, cold-blooded killers, were tortured by their mothers.
Tortured by their mother.
Tortured, abused by their mothers. And we look at the reality of boys, where boys are more likely to drop out of school, they're more likely to be sent to beg, they're more likely to be killed, right? They're more likely to be taken away.
Why is that? Is that because more attention is given to the girls?
I would say that honestly there's a deficit. So there is some need for gender, some equity within the home. Some equity. It's really a give and take situation because I think we really have to teach our people the value of family, I can remember in grade 1 they had those books that taught you about the nuclear family, but we need to move more to teaching about the parenting.
Yeah. As a youth member of parliament, you'd have focused on youth violence prevention.
Yes.
Yeah?
And so my focus looked at because another thing that Herbert pointed out was that these gang members that we have today were trained because some of them come from single parent homes, and so the Don, would be the father. And so they were trained to be killers. And so if we can find a mechanism to snatch those young men from the hands of criminal elements, to be nurtured to be criminals, we can be in a better place.
And create better communities, better homes as well. And
so I looked at a PPP model, a proper parenting model, that has a pilot program was done in Clarendon, I believe, that we can use because I think we have to train our parents.
That's critical as well.
I looked at going into the schools to teach teachers how to manage genders and how to, because, a teacher is so powerful, and many people will say, boy, I was on the run, until a teacher stopped me and really refocused me and set my compass straight for success. And another thing that I looked at was the hard legislation backing these policy positions. And so the youth parliament was what I could say one of the best experiences in my life. I met some wonderful youth leaders doing extraordinary things, making significant changes.
So there we have hope. We have a generation of men who will help to continue this phase of making changes.
Right, and women too, who are part of the youth parliament, which are really coming the Ministry of Education and Youth and Information for. Excellent program, and it's of course every year, right? But Alric, we have to recognize, I said, I think the outro of my presentation in the parliament, to move from analysis to action. That's our problem. You see, I learned that it is not literary research that has been done, But if you would look in Parliament on the desk after Parliament, you'll see some of the papers, the things from JSIF and see they are all left on the table.
No, let's talk about taking early action for a lot of our youth in their early years. You had your family support. You had your grandma. Take me to those experiences with grandma.
Miss Dawn, I call her mommy. So the connection was strong. And my voice changes, because...
Yes, man, I can hear it.
My grandmother was everything to me. She passed up about 8-9 years now. But as you know, when I was sitting in the Parliament, all I could remember was Dawn saying, "Be a success, boy." And I at that point when she told me that to be a success, it was when I gave her, I think, my grade 8 or grade 7 report. It was good grades. I said, you can be a success, man. Now watch where I'm going. And I learned, in my head, one of the things I think works in the ghetto for young people is separation. Because I recognize that all the way the parents keeping our yard. They used to come prisoner,
You used to call it prisoner?
Yes, man.
Because grandma kept you inside.
Yeah, man, looking through the grill. Prisoner, you can't come out.
But she had a plan, she had an intention or a dream for you.
Right. I said, boy, she wanted me to be focused. And so, sitting in Parliament, I said, well, and I say this phrase a lot, I am ghetto and ghetto is me. And so, it wasn't Roger that was there, but it was the ghetto in Parliament.
You're representing the people.
Representing the people. Representing every other man per Wellington Road. Every man per Maxwell Avenue. If say, if this boy will come up, Miss Lynette's shop, can reach in a Parliament, anyone can do it too. Right. And so, when I thought of it, I said, you know what? How did I get here? The thought came to me that struggles caused that. Faith ordained that. God set it in motion. And bad mind couldn't stop that. Jealousy couldn't block that. It was just destiny, there and then. And I spoke and my speech was well received. So I think for us to really look at how we can play our part.
Starts in the home.
Start in the home.
Roger Danvers, so many things to be done.
Yes.
It's a process.
It is.
But we are doing our part.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. I appreciate it.
A pleasure, Alric.
All right. So we want to thank Roger Danvers for sharing with us today on the Alric Show. Change must come, but it starts with you. I want to thank you so much for joining us for the Alric Show. The Alric Show will be back next week.
Show.